We just wanted to keep you busy. That's what my parents said later. Calm. Casual. Like they were explaining why they bought the wrong groceries. But 3 months earlier, it didn't sound like that at all. It started on a Sunday afternoon. My parents called me into the living room the way they always did when something serious was coming. No phones. No TV. Just that stiff silence that made your stomach tighten before anyone spoke. My dad cleared his throat. "We've been talking," he said. "And we think it's time you finally contribute." I was 26. Recently laid off. Still paying my own bills. Still helping with groceries when I could. I nodded, already bracing myself. My mom slid a thick folder across the table. Inside were printed documents. Charts. Schedules. Even a logo, something I'd never seen before. "What is this?" I asked. "A project," my mom said. "Our project." They explained it like a gift. A family opportunity. A small business idea they'd been dreaming about for years but never had the time to build. Now, apparently, I was that time. "You'll manage everything," my dad said. "Planning, research, setup. Full time." "For how long?" I asked. My mom smiled. 3 months. "That's fair, right?" I hesitated. "And pay?" The room went cold. My dad's voice sharpened. "You live under our roof. You eat our food. Isn't that payment enough?" I wanted to argue. I wanted to say no. But then my mom added, softly, almost sweetly, "If you don't do this, maybe it's time you find somewhere else to stay." So I agreed. From the next morning, my life stopped being mine. I woke up at 6 a.m. every day. They had a schedule taped to my door, hour by hour. Research. Phone calls. Market analysis. Vendor lists. Budget spreadsheets. Every night, I had to report my progress at the dinner table like a child showing homework. Nothing was ever good enough. My dad would tap the papers and say, "This is sloppy." My mom would sigh, "You're not taking this seriously." When I asked questions, they accused me of being difficult. When I suggested improvements, they said I was trying to take control. I wasn't allowed to apply for other jobs. "You'll lose focus," my mom said. I wasn't allowed to go out much either. "You're tired anyway," my dad said. Weeks blurred together. I watched my savings drain while I worked 12-hour days on their dream. I skipped meals to save money. I slept badly. My confidence started shrinking, day by day. One night, exhausted, I asked, "What happens after the 3 months?" My parents exchanged a look. "We'll see," my dad said. That's when something inside me cracked. Because suddenly, I realized something terrifying. There was no end date. No plan for me. Only work. Control. And silence. And the worst part. Every time I looked up from my laptop, my parents looked satisfied. As if this was exactly what they wanted. And I still had 2 months left. By the second month, the house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like an office where I never clocked out, and where failure was expected, not feared. My parents stopped asking how I was doing. They only asked how much I'd finished. Every morning, my mom would stand in the doorway with her arms crossed. "What's today's plan?" she'd ask, like a supervisor. If I paused to think, she'd shake her head. "See, you're wasting time again." I started eating alone in my room. Not because I wanted to, but because dinner had become a daily performance review. My dad would flip through my notes while chewing, pointing with his fork. "You should have called more suppliers. This estimate is useless. Do you even know what you're doing?" Once, I overheard my mom on the phone with my aunt. "He's busy all day now," she said, laughing. "At least he's finally useful." That sentence sat in my chest like a stone. I worked harder after that. Not because I believed in the project, but because I needed them to stop looking at me like I was disposable. Midway through the second month, I asked again about payment. Just a small stipend. Anything. My dad didn't even look up. "You're being ungrateful." My mom added, "We gave you structure. Without us, You'd just sit around feeling sorry for yourself. That's when the rules tightened. They took my car keys. You don't need to go anywhere, my dad said. They started checking my laptop. To make sure you're focused, my mom claimed. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was no longer about the business. One evening, while organizing files on the shared computer, I found something odd. A folder labeled Original Plan. Inside were documents dated 2 years earlier. Fully developed. Contacts already listed. Budgets finalized. Even a launch timeline. My heart started racing. This project, the one they said didn't exist, was already finished before I ever touched it. I scrolled further. There was an email thread between my parents. My mom had written, "Maybe if he's busy enough, he'll stop talking about moving out." My dad replied, "Exactly. Keep him occupied. 3 months should break the habit." I sat there in the dark, staring at the screen. This wasn't a chance. This wasn't training. This was a leash. All the late nights. The stress. The control. None of it was about success. It was about keeping me small. Dependent. Too tired to leave. That night, I didn't confront them. I did something quieter. I started planning my exit. And for the first time in months, I felt awake. Because now I knew the truth. They never wanted the project. They wanted me trapped. And I still had 1 month left to decide what to do with that knowledge. The last month felt different. I stopped arguing. Stopped explaining. I nodded, took notes, and played the role they wanted. The obedient, busy child who had nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, every night after they slept, I worked on something else. Not their project. Mine. I backed up every document I'd created. Every improvement. Every connection I'd made. Legally mine, my ideas, my revisions, my work. I emailed copies to myself, then deleted my fingerprints from their files. 2 weeks before the deadline, I secured a small apartment. Nothing fancy. Just quiet. Freedom in the form of a key that was mine alone. On the final day, my parents sat across from me at the table, waiting. "Well," my dad said. "Is it done?" I slid a flash drive across the table. My mom smiled. "See, we knew keeping you busy would help." I stood up. "That drive only contains what you already had," I said calmly. "Everything new, every improvement, you don't own." Their smiles froze. "What are you talking about?" my dad snapped. "I read the emails," I said. "The plan. The real one." Silence. I continued. "You didn't train me. You controlled me. And I'm done." My mom laughed nervously. "You're overreacting." "No," I said. "I'm leaving." I picked up my bag. No shouting. No tears. At the door, my dad said, "You'll regret this." I turned back once. I already regret staying. I walked out. They never called to apologize. Only once, weeks later, my mom texted, "Do you still have the supplier contacts?" I didn't reply. 3 months they tried to keep me busy. Instead, they taught me something better. How to walk away without begging.